Now, how did you decide to go to Southern for college? Were there a lot of colleges recruiting you back then?
Well, I grew up doing segregation. And when I came out of college in 1966, the University of Georgia, Georgia Techs of the world, Alabama, and all those schools wasn't recruiting the black athletes. And so I had an opportunity to go to schools like Savannah State or Albany State, Fort Valley State, and Southern University just happened to hear about me, and they came recruiting me, and that's why I decided to go there. And what happened was Southern University, is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm over there in Georgia, but there was an official who officiated one of my games my senior year in high school, and he knew some people at Southern University. Well, the night that he officiated my high school game, I scored 5 touchdowns. I was a kickoff returner, wide receiver, and I played defensive end on the defensive side. And I was able to get into the end zone 5 times. So I obviously had an impression on the official who knew some people at Southern University and told them about me, and they came and offered me a scholarship.
I thought Eddie Robinson got all the players back in that era.
Well, believe it or not, Southern University was more popular than Grambling. It was a bigger HBC school. But Eddie Robinson did get some great players, and so did Southern. Southern, they didn't have the stability at the coaching position, because even when I was there, we had a turnover as a head coach. But Eddie Robinson, he was a guy who, there was for a long period of time at Grambling and was able to build a tremendous program.
Did you have any idea that the Steelers were going to draft you in 1970?
I had really never heard of anybody on the Steelers. I did see the Steelers play the New Orleans Saints, and I was still in college in 1969. And when they drafted me, I had no idea, who the Steelers had on their team. I never heard of Joe Green. He had been drafted in 1969. But no, I didn't. And I was somewhat disappointed.
Why? Where did you want to go? What team?
I wanted to play for the Saints, obviously because I was in Louisiana, and I just thought that would have been a great team to play for, but little did I know that God had different plans for me. And also, I was a third-round pick, and I thought surely, like most players, that you should go higher in the draft, but it all worked out.
That organization had a lot of success for like 20 years before you joined them. Was there a lot of expectations on you guys when you joined them to turn that franchise around?
Well, what I think is that Chuck Noll came in with the plan that he was going to build his team through the draft, and it was going to take some time. And so my rookie year, Bradshaw was a first-round pick. There was a guy by the name of Ron Shanklin, who was a wide receiver from North Texas State, the same school Joe Green went to. He was the number 2 pick, and I was the number 3 pick. And so we all came in and we made contributions to the organization. In fact, I think all of us at some point was all pros. And so Chuck started drafting players through the draft and building a championship team. Now, certainly there was expectations. I mean, they were at the bottom of the barrel for the NFL. They really was the doormat of the National Football League. So it wasn't only one direction they could go, and that was up.
What was Chuck Noll like to play for?
I thought Chuck was a fair coach. He was tough, demanding, but I thought he was fair and very, very detail oriented, and just a great coach. I thought he was really the reason so many of us were not only all pros but wound up in the Hall of Fame, because he made you want to be the best you could be.
A lot of the former Steelers told me that Chuck, again, he was a great coach, but again, he was a family man and he believed in discipline. But when you stepped off the field, he thought you should spend time with your family and be involved in the community. It wasn't all just about football.
Well, it's no question. I mean, Chuck wanted his players to be professionals on the field and be family men off the field and good community leaders. I mean, he was a tremendous, in my opinion, tremendous leader and had a tremendous amount of influence on my life. And I think any player you talk to that played for Chuck would tell you the same thing. I mean, he didn't get the kind of notoriety that Vince Lombardi got, but he was right there in that same class.
When you joined the Steelers, again, you had a young defense, and it seemed like you guys all kind of meshed together and you basically gelled all at the same time. What was the reason for that?
Well, there's a such thing that's called accountability. I think every player wanted to be held accountable, and every player wanted to make sure that they didn't disappoint their teammate. And it was a tremendous thing to be a part of, and so much respect and love grew out of that because, when you're out there on that football field, you got to believe in the guy that you line up next to. And I think that was the thing that really separated us in the 70s from the rest of the teams, because every guy wanted to make sure that he didn't disappoint the next guy.
Who was the leader of the defense? Was it Jack Lambert? Was it you? Was it Joe Green?
Well, let me say this, that whole defense was built around Joe Green. Now, when you talk about leaders, leaders to me is whoever can go out there and make a play for you. But I think in the sense of being recognized from the public point of view of the fans or the front office, Joe Green, without a doubt, that was his team. That was his defense.
Joe said he changed over the first couple of years of his career where he didn't play with as much meanness. He mellowed out a little. Did you notice that in him, or was he the same guy from when he started?
The first couple of years of his career, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the first couple of years, Joe said that, again, he was playing more with emotion, with an angry streak. He kind of mellowed out later on, and that made him a better player. Did you see that?
Well, I do know that Joe Green, to me, he looked like he played angry all the time. Joe wants to make people believe that he didn't deserve that name, Mean Joe Green, but Joe Green was something, man. He was just a tremendous player, but he was also a guy that, he didn't mind getting in your face or getting in your grill, and I'm not just talking about the guys he played with. I'm talking about the opponents also, and on the banquet circuit, everybody's got a Joe Green story.
You were 6'2", playing in the NFL. Most of the time, cornerbacks weren't that big. Did they ever try to make you a safety in the NFL and say you were too big for cornerback?
Well, I'm going to correct you. I'm 6'3.5".
6'3", sorry.
Yeah. Well, look, I think Chuck put me where he thought I could help the team the most. And that was 14 years at the corner position. Led the league in 1975 with 11 interceptions and became the Steelers' all-time interception leader. So I can't complain about the position I played. I just wanted to be a great player, whether it was at safety or cornerback or wherever they could put me on special teams. I just wanted to be out there making a contribution.
What made you such a good cornerback?
Well, I think it starts with attitude. I think it starts with, just wanting to be the best and willingness to work and do the things that's going to help you get better. I've always said that there's no substitute for hard work. I don't care how talented you are. And I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the preparation. I enjoyed, working off season, getting ready for training camp, the whole process.
Your specialty was a bump and run. When the NFL basically outlawed it, had the Mel Blount rule, how did that make you feel at that time?
Well, it just made me raise my game to prove that I could do more than bump and run. And, we went on and won 2 more Super Bowls after that. And I still bump and run. I still played the bump and run within the 5 yards. I think it's a compliment anytime that a player can have an impact on the game, that they start legislating the game to slow you down or, to take away what they would call your aggressiveness. And I think what happened too, the Steelers were so dominant at every position because they took away the head slap and all those other things that Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood and those guys were doing in the line. But we were just talented. We were talented people, and Paul Brown was on the competition committee, and he was going against us twice a year, and he just had seen enough. So he wanted to see what he could do to help change the rules and help free up Isaac Curtis, and but we still performed at a high level after all that.
Who gave you the toughest job covering? Which wide receiver?
They all were tough, man. Look, when you get to the National Football League, there's no cakewalk. But I think one of the things that helped us, and I'm talking about myself and the guys who played in the secondary with me, we played against the best every day in practice. And so when we got up against Charlie Joyner or Paul Warfield, those kind of guys, we knew how to play and we knew what we needed to do. So that's one of the most common questions in my interviews. People say, well, who's the toughest wide receiver? Well, they all were tough, but we were prepared because we were going against the best every day in practice.
So you were practicing against the Lynn Swans and John Stallworths every day? Every
day.
Because a lot of teams would say first team against second team defense and first team defense against second team offense. But again, Noll didn't believe in that?
Well, I think that's what separated us from a lot of teams, and I think that's why we were dominant, and we were, can say we were part of 4 Super Bowl championships because, nobody was above anybody on that team. Don't care if you was a special team player or if you were a Mel Blount or Joe Green. We all went out there to work and to get better, and the only way you can get better is going against the best. And so the first team defense always went against the first team offense. And, so that might have been one of the secrets to the Steelers and the way they operated.
What was that first Super Bowl like you played in?
Well, you know what, it was, for me personally, it was a tremendous experience. It was also, in my opinion, I thought a confirmation of what kind of team we had, because a lot of people say we shouldn't have been there and that we wasn't going to win because we were playing the Purple People Eaters and we got lucky against the Oakland Raiders. But uh, I think it was a confirmation, and it was an eye opener to the rest of the league about who the Pittsburgh Steelers were and where we were going.
Again, you played the Steelers in the Super Bowl, the Cowboys. You played the Rams. Was there a favorite Super Bowl of yours?
Well, my favorite team to play against was the Cowboys because there was so much motivation because they were being promoted as America's team, and it was just what they call bulletin board material that against the opponents, and so I thought they were my favorite. I think probably our toughest Super Bowl might have been the Rams. Because that was the team that we went in trailing at halftime, and so our offense with Stallworth and Swan and Bradshaw, they kind of opened things up, and we were able to get out of there with a victory. But they played a good game against us.
You had an interception in the Super Bowl, if I remember, against Roger Staubach. What was that like?
Well, it was a big play. It was a big play right before the half because they was driving. So anytime you can stop a drive, it was a big play. And I think every time I see Roger, he relives that play and asks me, what did I see? But, hey, when you got that many great athletes on the field, a lot of things happen. And, I was fortunate enough to be able to read the play and jump it and get the interception and really stop their momentum and go into the halftime with the lead.
How did you know when it was time to call it a career?
Well, mentally I knew because I had just got tired mentally and I wasn't enjoying the game anymore. And it's interesting because I had another year on my contract that would have paid me more money than I would have made all of my years. But I just wasn't there, and I I've never been the kind of guy that was just hanging around just to hang on if I couldn't perform at a high level. And I had my own standards. I didn't need nobody to tell me just to come back and be a part. My standards are my standards, and I don't lower them for anybody. And it was time, and I knew it from a mental standpoint. And physically, I was in great. My body was fine. I was just tired mentally.
What's amazing about the Steelers, I was talking to someone tonight, is how active the Steelers players were in the community from the 70s. Again, you never heard of them getting in trouble. You had Franco Harris, the bakery. You had John Stallworth with his charities, Lynn Swan involved with a lot of things, yourself starting a youth home. Do you think there was just the mentality of the Coach Noll basically passed on to the players, or the ownership of the Steelers, the Rooneys, or what do you think? I mean, because a lot of the teams didn't have that with the Raiders and things like that.
I think it's a combination of all the above. I think things we learned from Chuck, the things we heard and saw in him, I think the things we saw from ownership, the Rooneys were and still are so involved in the communities. And I just think we just saw the influence that we had and still have in this community, and we wanted to do something positive and, do something that's going to help other people and use the influence in a positive way. So I think it is a real tribute to starting with the Steeler organization.
What was it like when you found out you went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
You know what? It was something that I never thought about it. And when it happened, it took a while for it to sink in about what it really what it really meant. And I'm grateful because the guys I played with, it was so much a part of their recognition and awards also, because you don't get that by yourself. We all are standing on somebody's shoulders, and it was just it was a tremendous thing. I tell you, I don't know if anybody can ever explain to you the feeling, but to be a first round ballot. I mean, nobody ever. I know when I came to the Steelers, and even when I retired, I never thought anything about the Hall of Fame, or especially being selected my first year eligibility. It's just something that you didn't think about those days, because they didn't talk about it on television like they do now. But now everybody is a future Hall of Famer if you listen to the commentators, and so I'm sure guys now retired thinking about it. But when we came along, that it wasn't even mentioned.
Again, people say you're the greatest cornerback of all time. How does it make you feel?
Well, I don't know if I'm the greatest, and I haven't heard that too much. I think Gil Brandt just did something, and they listed me as being the number 6 best cornerback in the history of the game. And so everybody's got their own opinion. The only thing I know is that I played the best I could play. I was a part of 4 world championships. I was in the Pro Bowl numerous times. So I don't have a real complex or problem when somebody say that, hey, so and so was better than you, or that they list you as number 6 or number 4 or whatever. Because I think what's important is that you played the best you could play. You left the game, and you went on and you did something to try to help people become better and help people who were less fortunate. And that's what it's all about, just trying to make the world a better place than what you found it.
No, exactly. I mean, it's amazing, those teams. I wish the Hall of Fame would get it right and put L.C. Greenwood in there. I mean, I think he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame when you compare him to some of the other defensive linemen in the Hall.
There's no question. LC, and you got guys like Donnie Shell, you got guys like Larry Brown, who people never talk about, but was one of the greatest offensive tackles to ever play. But I think they just got tired of putting Steelers in, and so they got Jerome in there after a couple of years, and I think there'll be some more Steelers. But from that era, when I played, there are some guys who have fallen through the cracks, and it's unfortunate.